There we go. Hey, welcome to our third week, second chapter. That's going to throw me off the whole time. Week 3, chapter 2. Successful women think differently. Habit 2 is get off the hedonic treadmill. Why we are poor predictors of our own happiness and how you can get it right. As soon as I read that, I was like, pardon me?
I struggled. I struggled with the title of this. I'm like, do I actually know what hedonic means?
Well,
Sharon,
what
was
did
that
you
you too?
find?
No, I knew what it meant. I just really, really, really liked the word. I'm like, I gotta use that in conversation.
Right?
Yeah, I did know what it meant. When I checked, it's like, yeah, that is what I thought it meant.
Right. Sorry,
Funny.
now I'm going to look up the actual definition for us so that we all, hold on. There we go. Hedonic, of, relating to, or marked by pleasure. Of or relating to hedonism or hedonists. That is not helping at all. Pertaining to pleasure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she could have just said the pleasure treadmill, but she didn't.
Oh, but it's such a better word.
It is a better word.
Much,
This is just
a
like,
richer word.
I felt like I was being homeschooled for a minute because I was like, oh, we're going to try to expand our vocabulary today. Okay. Women on average are less happy today than 40 years ago. Develop the ability to be content while also aiming higher. Tailor your own personal happiness program. I don't know about you guys, but when I encountered the part where she was like, women over 40 are like, that's when they start to become unhappy. And I'm like, oh, well, thanks for priming me for that. This is, and then I thought, no, it's mindset work so that like we start to like know what to expect and going forward and whatever. All right. Where are we at? Sherry, why don't you kick us off here with your first thought?
Okay, so my pages 48 and 49 have all these yellow lines on them, but I think the key that I was seeing was first, I mean, happiness is a great motivator. We are motivated by being happy. Whatever we do, dopamine kick, happy, yes. And so it is a great motivator. But the bottom of that page on 48, it was like we think we know what makes us happy. So we strive for it. We chase it. Often we get it. And then discontentment sets in and we declare there's something else we need to be happy. And that continual adaptation to where we're at today seems to be part of that drive for the next level. So my thought on all that was, so what makes me happy? What makes me happy? I'm happy watching kids play hockey. I'm happy when someone tells me they've had success with supplements. I'm happy when someone indicates like, and as I was thinking about this list, I'm like, and a lot of those are external things. And so what actually inside me makes me happy? And so I'm kind of sitting with it a little bit because is it accomplishment or is it being in a place where my expectations of me meet my reality of me? I'd love to go around the circle, inviting others to comment on what makes you happy.
Just unmute yourselves and
Go. Yes, Sharon, absolutely.
When my key relationships are in order, right? And it's good. That makes me happy. There's nothing that makes me happier than my kids happily playing and like, I love you, mommy hugs, or like a kiss from Ben, or I just got to spend a week with my best friend and I'm like, I'm on top of the world because of it. right? Because it was so like made me so happy, so like soul fulfilling more than any external anything. So I'm stereotypical female. Relationships make me happy. Yeah.
That the comment about spending time with a friend, for me, that those deep conversations are just like 100% engaging. That whole happiness meter just hits the roof. Yeah, that's really good, Sharon. Who else? Janelle?
For me, what makes me happy is when I've pushed into something that I've previously been scared or found difficult to do, and I did it. Like this week, I set up our Pro Presenter, which is our slides, and it shows everything on the screens, the song lyrics, everything, sermons, slides for this Sunday. And it took me a few hours, and it's not as pretty as like our tech director would have had it done, but I did it. And I've been on top of the world doing that.
And you're gonna get to see it on Sunday morning up there and like have that little like, whew, I did that. Like,
Yes.
you know, that little heart flutter, right?
Well, and especially for me, like I don't like technology. Like I still don't own a cell phone and stuff. So like I try to avoid technology, yet God keeps putting me in these situations where I have to be comfortable with technology.
Cool. Cool. Allowing you those beautiful opportunities to grow.
I feel like it's almost like a God wink in the way, right? Like being like, it's not because you can't, it's because you're choosing not to, right? Like it's, you can do this. See, you can. Good job.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. It's that happiness of accomplishment.
Yes. And you know, the other piece too is being able to circle around and be like, I did a good job. Right? Anyone else?
Yeah, for me too, it's family and friends. You know, and I see my grandsons at the door coming in and just making themselves at home and helping me set the table and helping me, you know, do stuff. That makes me happy. And I miss my friend. She's in Mexico right now, enjoying the warmth. Or one of my friends, I should say.
Yeah.
Janice or Trisha? I don't know if Trisha's around, but oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yep.
Sorry, I'm actually awake this morning because my kids woke me up really early.
Good job.
Yeah. No, the other thing that makes me happy besides relationships, it's as well, it's like what Janelle was saying. It's that sense of accomplishment. And I think that that's different for every single one of us. Like I get really excited by travel, which used to be a huge part of my life. Right. And it hasn't been through a decade because I've been raising babies. But I love that. Like there are a few things that would make me happier than getting on a night train and like waking up in a random city and being like, okay, let's go. Right. I loved that. And it's for the sense of accomplishment of look what I did. Right. Yeah. And it's not, I don't care if anybody else wants to do it or if that's what makes them happy. For me, those new experiences and that sense of accomplishment made me so happy. Yeah.
That's so cool. I happened upon this morning in stories, oddly enough, and well, you know what? That's something that makes me happy is where, you know, you're going down a growth journey and then all of a sudden you start like seeing just, it's like all of the pieces just start falling together and you're like, is everyone in the world doing the same thing as I'm doing? Because it's just, everything is just kind of piling on top of each other and it's great. It's a quote from Adam Grant and he says, happiness is not about reaching your goals. It's about aligning your goals with your values. Progress without purpose is empty. Achievement without impact is fleeting. Success is most rewarding when it serves the people and principles that matter to you. And so last weekend, when I was running like a crazy person doing and I was so happy being able to be there for my kids and watching basketball and being involved in the school and like those things, they really did make me happy. But I came home and I was just exhausted and I slept for a bajillion hours and I was still tired. And I was like, why am I tired? And I was like, oh, it's because I haven't been present in the space that is like at the core of like my values. I haven't been in my home making sure that everybody has what they need. Like, I'm not talking, a beautifully clean home or whatever. I'm just saying, like, I feel like I don't have a handle like on the control center anymore. So I needed to get home. I needed to find out where everybody was at and what everybody needed. And then we were able to start the balls rolling in the right directions again, get who needs to do laundry? Who's going here? What shift is dad working? Do we have food in the fridge? Do we need to clean out the fridge? It was that, like, as soon as I started getting aligned with that, I was happier and I felt rested. And that was just a really big epiphany to me in that, sometimes rest is simply realigning yourself with your values and your purpose and moving in that direction, and happiness too. So I was, not that I wasn't happy to be sitting in a gym for a bajillion hours, but
I like how she goes on the next page and talks about the paradox between success and happiness. The higher your success, the higher your expectations.
Mm-hmm.
The higher your expectations, the more opportunity for disappointment. And just further down the page in that little quote, there a little piece that says happiness equals reality minus expectations. And I think it's so interesting how we decide what our expectations are. How we've got this manual for ourselves, and you may have heard me mention the manual before, but how we have this manual for ourselves about our expectations of us. And some of us have a mom manual that says this is what a good mom is, and some of us have a housekeeping manual that says this is what a good house manager does. And some of us have a wife manual that says this is how a good wife behaves. And some of us have manuals for other people too. As a matter of fact, we all do. This is the good husband manual. We may or may not have told him. This is the good friend manual.
He doesn't have the manual.
He may not even know the language it's written in.
Oh my goodness.
So when he talked about expectations, it really made me think of, as women, that's who's here on this call, we have manuals for ourselves. If you're listening to the replay and you're a male, a dad, a father, a husband, you have manuals for you too. And the thing is, we rarely question who built the manual, who wrote the manual, where did the manual come from? And the reality is, we wrote our own manual. And that's both the bad news and the good news, because we can change what's written in the manual. But we first have to be aware that there is a manual. And that manual is often why we feel guilty. The meal isn't ready when kids come home from school, or the lunch isn't ready, or this, all those things. It's our own manual that makes us think that's what we should be doing. It's that expectation. And then we start either making excuses because we were doing something else, coming up with reasons, or just simply feeling guilty and putting ourselves down. I'm so sorry, it's not ready. This is what happened. And we go on and on. And so her whole thing about expectations really hit home for me in terms of understanding that those are our manuals for ourselves. And on page 50, she says, we have to start by getting clear about what really matters.
I'm laughing at the one piece of that article that she shares, and it says, we'd rather stew in our misery than trim our expectations. Better a nation of morose overachievers, we reason, than a land of happy slackers. But it is true. It is true. That's why a lot of people are looking for that, and bonus for us, because we can solve that problem. That's why a lot of people are not willing to change their lifestyle. They're more willing to increase their income. So, well, I won't say they are not willing to change their lifestyle. They're willing to take on more work or more income generating activities rather than, you know, say no to a vacation, or rather than say, oh no, we can't, you know, we can't afford to go camping this year, or we can't afford to, you know, fill in the blank. And it's that happiness piece. People will drag themselves through the mud in order to keep up that quality of life, or to keep on going up, right? The idea of cutting back is not, that is not a cultural norm for where we are. And you know, I think that there's a good balance there, where you say, no, this is where I am, like, I am aligned with my purpose, and I do feel that I need to continue down this road, because then I can do things like give more, or we can spend more time on ministries that we want to spend, or, you know, those types of things, and that can elicit the happiness, and that's important. I'm not saying that chasing those things is all just frivolous. Sometimes it's things that really do align with your purpose, that exude happiness, that are in the positive. And I do think, and I will just say, I do think that this is something that I struggle with. Good morning. Something that I struggle with too, because, and I think Sharon can probably relate, just like as a homemaker, when that's the purpose, and that's where you're really aligned, you know, you can get that dopamine hit from all the good things, right? Like, oh, I made dinner, you know, that everyone has clean clothes. Oh, I've got, you know, my family is totally in order. Sharon and I were actually talking about this yesterday. My family is totally in order. It's good. I'm checking the box of, you know, that big purpose thing, right? Well, why on earth would you want to go pursue anything else when you've got that fulfillment there in your heart? But on the flip side, you have been given a purpose outside of those things. It's really easy to get wrapped up in all of those amazing good things and be able to be like, well, the other stuff is like, we can just let everything else slide because it's not really that important, right? What's really important is this here. And I'm not debating that, but, you know, you do see a lot of Christian women who have a hard time then going to pursue a goal or a dream that's difficult or uncomfortable, because we really are getting that core fulfillment in our homes, and we can kind of slough off the other goals that are outside of that. I was like, Sharon's gonna have something to say, and that's good.
I do have something to say. I think, I'm not sure who all has littles on here other than Chelsea and I, that kids that are quite young at home. But the thing is too, it occurs to me that they're not going to be little and needing that much care for very long. So set some goals, do some things. Otherwise, even like in another couple of years, I'm going to be like, oh, well, what am I supposed to do now with my time? It turns out they can wipe their own bums. My kids do. They're old enough now that they do. But, you know, so I think it's that purpose too. And it's the going past the present.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good point, Sharon, because we know how many women, I mean, there's lots of statistics about their last one goes to school and they become depressed, or their last one leaves home and they become depressed. I mean, divorce statistics start showing up in alignment with those shifts in how women are feeling about where they're getting their value.
Yeah. And actually, it's kind of funny that you say that, because I have experienced that same thought pattern multiple times and stages through my kids' lives. And so it does not just stop when they're little. Like now I'm going, maybe it's just because I have my first that's graduating this year. But now I'm like, but I look at my girls, and my girls are 15, and I go, this is like an incredibly special time in their lives. And I want to make sure that I am fully engaged and I'm here with, like, for what they need. Like my youngest is like entering that tween stage, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to be here for this. I need to make sure, like, we're only here for this short time. And I don't know that it ever actually changes when we choose awareness of the value that the reciprocal value that we add to them, and that us being present adds back to us. So you may never get off get off that treadmill, Sharon. I'm just saying. So why is women's happiness on the decline? And you know what, Sharon, you and I just had like such an on par conversation yesterday. I had a daughter who said to me the other day, and like, God bless her, she's like, Mom, you know what? After school, I just want to get married and have babies and be a stay-at-home mom. This is my 15-year-old. And she's almost saying it apologetically, that this is all I want to do. Like, she's like, well, maybe I'll go to university for this, or maybe I guess I could go do this or whatever. But really, I just want to get married and be a mom. And I was like, you know, that's perfectly acceptable, right? Like that is so fine. That's wonderful. Like that you want to do that. And we started talking about feminism, and she's like, yeah, no, thank you. She's like, who decided that I needed to have a job and do all of the other things too? No, thank you. Feminism can have that back. I know. No. So it's just funny. I'm like, you are smart. You are 15 and you get that. And you do not need to prove anything to anybody. She's like, I just want to bake and cook and have a home. But then she goes, but what if I don't get married? I'm like, sweetheart, if you're 15 and you're like, I want to get married and I want to have babies, you're fine. If all else fails, like Sharon says, we'll just send you off to Bible college.
This is so interesting to hear, because I literally never had the dream of becoming a stay-at-home mom.
That's me.
So, I was like, let's go to the jungles in the middle of nowhere and like almost get killed because we're telling people about Jesus. Like, that was my dream. That is my dream. And so I had to adjust a little bit when it's part of the Lord's plan. So,
Isn't that funny? Chelsea, I totally agree. I never saw myself having kids. Definitely saw myself getting married. Never saw myself having children. Never had that dream. Thought something was broken in me because I didn't. But as soon as we had that first baby, I'm like, ain't nobody raising this child but me. And like, I'm not going back to work. I'm not, like, we're going to do whatever we can for me to stay home. And then to hear that my daughter wants to be a stay-at-home mom. And she goes, and if I get to do that, Mom, I'll do Plexus. I want to do Plexus too. And I'm like, yep, okay. And you know what? That was such like a gold star for me in my mom book. I'm like, okay, not failing today. High five. She wants to do what I do. And not saying that our kids have to do what we do in order for us to feel successful, but it was one of those moments where it was like, okay, maybe we're actually getting one of these things right.
it also kind of makes you think like, I must be doing something right because my daughter actually wants to do what I do. Like, and I didn't completely mess this up. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And, you know, I actually have been thinking a lot about this, and I realized that it really does actually put a little bit more emphasis on the intentionality that we take too. Because if we're overextending ourselves in an unrealistic view, like in some area, if I were to be my daughter, or if my daughter were to be me in however many years, and I were to be watching her do what she's doing, would I be like, you're crazy? you need to not, like, you need to pull back here, or you need to pull back here, or this is not, like, you're expecting too much of yourself, right? So, just having that realistic expectation and realizing how much it's speaking to your kids and the people around you, grandkids, or, whomever it is that are watching you, right? And like, I look at you ladies who have grandkids and I go, yeah, I want to be a grandma like you. I want to do the things I want to, like, I still want to be reaching like personal goals, at that point in my life. I want to be doing hard things, right? And so we realize that we really do set the tone for those people that we are influential over. So I'm on 53. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think we have to keep moving because we're not doing very, very well on this chapter. And we're
Sure
halfway
are.
through.
We're having good conversation. Redefining success for yourself. I think that that's really important to take a look at all of those questions. And I mean, we can keep going, but redefining success. What is success? And I've asked that a million times.
Mhm.
You will never reach the bar if you don't know where it is.
And I think we often don't, let me rephrase this. We often choose to accept external cultural indicators of success instead of taking time for ourselves to really dig deep and say, what is success for me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And what is
Sharon.
success for me now versus what is success for me, like, in 2 years from now? Like, in the season I'm in right now, what does that look like?
Today? Yes. Yes, Sharon.
I know you want to move on. Sorry.
We
Yeah,
want to be
I
exactly
think-
where we are.
To me, it's so interesting though too, because I think we all buy lies, right? It's the asking the question of what is success for me now, and spoiler alert, everyone feels like they're somehow missing the expectations, right? Like the mama that works outside of the home and is working so hard and doing everything to provide her family, and it doesn't matter if it's like a way high up career or she's a waitress, it doesn't matter. She feels like she is less than, and she's like doing whatever. The homemaker feels like she's not doing a good job. The lady who's chosen to not have kids or hasn't been able to have kids feels like she's not doing a good job. We all feel like that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's I think getting really clear on our values and what are your goals and your values. And that's so personal. And then going and doing that, aligning with that and doing it unapologetically and not thinking anybody else has to do what I'm doing. Right. It's, I love being a homemaker right now at this stage. Yeah. That is like an absolute nightmare for many women out there who love their kids just as much as I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And aligning with people around you who support you in your place where you are today, who aren't trying to make their manual for you your reality.
Yeah.
I like the 5 questions that you mentioned, Janelle. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You keep
So
going.
I actually want to jump way ahead.
Yeah, I thought so.
I want to hop way up to page 58 where it's talking about the pursuit of authentic happiness.
Yes.
Like we've talked about where it is and we've talked about our own, but then what would make you happier? Like wherever you are, what would make you happier? And page 59, Abraham Lincoln once noted, most people are about as happy as they make up their minds to be. And if he was right, then happiness is a choice. But it turns out, and she says it on the bottom of the page, we tend to be poor predictors of what will actually make us happy, of where our happiness actually comes from. And as we turn on to page 60, I mean, it's like a new home will make me happy, or a new level in Plexus will make me happy, or a new spouse, or a new car, or a new outfit, or more money. Like we tend to buy into the story in our head about cultural expectations. in terms of what will make us happy. But I really love where she gets to only 3 ways money can buy happiness, ladies. Number 1, can I pay my bills?
Mm-hmm.
And the bottom line, living below your means increases happiness. But the second one I find fascinating because it's, do I make more or less than the people around me? And the bottom line is, people feel better when they're above average. And that one really, really fascinates me. And that's those people you spend your time with and their influence on you. And then her third one there, do I spend my money making someone else happy? People report higher levels of happiness when they spend money on others. So my question for everyone is, what would make you happier than you are at this moment?
I will go and I will say, finding more people to teach how to make more money, to create more margin, to elicit more answers to those questions. That would make me happier. More and more and more, because it's for everybody. Anybody can do it. Unless you don't like people, then that's not going to work. That's like going to be a reel this week. Like, you know, we always say anybody can do this. My caveat is, if you don't like people, it ain't going to fly. You can try for a while, but I don't know. While you guys are thinking about this, I just want to say, when she said that we tend to be poor predictors of what actually will make us happy, I almost started like a paranoia cycle of questions. I'm like, okay, so I thought that I was doing like really good in like creating vision and going for, like, I thought, then am I truly a poor predictor of what is going to make me happy? Like, what's so, yeah, it's kind of like this. Okay, I don't think she's wrong, right? And I can think of a time in my life where I used to go shopping. If I was depressed, I would go shopping and I would spend money, and it would be the dopamine hit for the immediate, and then I wouldn't get any happier. And it was a way that I really did deal with my emotions, whether the negative or positive. But I'm going to just say that after I realized that it wasn't positive, after I realized it wasn't positive and I stopped doing it, the frustration was that, and sometimes still is, that when I'm in a funk and I'm just like, I know that shopping is not going to make me happy, so I'm not going to go shopping. But then I'm like, well, dang it, but I want to do something that makes me happy, but I'm just aware that there is nothing out there that is going to actually make me happy until I fix my mindset. But right now, I just can't. And then I just want to be frivolous and stupid. And then it's just going to be a whole cycle of like, but it didn't actually make me happy. And now I feel bad because I knew it wasn't going to make me happy. And now I've spent the money and it didn't do anything. And then it's just like this whole thing, right? Where you're just like, the awareness is there that the things aren't going to do it. And you just have to sit in that for a little while until you can like move yourself forward in that.
Yeah.
So mindset growth is great. Most of the time. Sometimes I wish I could just go buy a pair of shoes and be happy, but I'm just too aware. Anyway, I'd love to hear what other people are thinking on that.
I think what's something that makes me feel lots of joy and fulfillment is getting to help others, but also just in a more specific sense. Like, I love blessing people, and a frustration I have is that I don't have a lot of money to do it as much as I'd like. And and to give as much as I would like to give. So I can't do it as often as I'd like, and I can't do it as much as give as much as I'd like. And that's a huge frustration for me because there's a lot of people in my life who I feel like are doing really amazing things for the Lord, and they're trying to like raise money. Or I have a friend who, you know, they're really struggling financially or something, and they just, you know, lost their, and I don't know, they lost something super expensive, and it's a big frustration, and it, or someone stole from them, you know what I mean? Like just this stuff where you're like, man, this would be a great time if I had money to just be like, I want to do something to bless you, and that just brings me so much joy every single time, and for me it always does feel worth it. It's just that factor of there's only so much that I have to give at this time, and I want to change that. So
I'm fascinated by how challenged we are to find things that would bring us more happiness. I'm in awe. Yes, Janelle.
For me, it's kind of a two-step process. First is to make sure my husband is in the same book that I'm in, on the same page.
Good job.
Because we tend to not be. But something that I want to start working on as it gets a little warmer is I want to declutter my house. We have had a family of 4, and 3 out of the 4 are sentimental keepers of everything. And so I just need less in my house. Sorry, I got a delivery.
Janice shared, that's exactly how I feel, Chelsea. I want to give more, but finances and my husband hold me back for our own good. You know, and I've actually been thinking about that too, where I go, you know, I know that there's a reason, like God is sovereign. And I'm not saying that I don't personally believe that just because my heart is in the right place and that I'm doing things for the Lord, that he will benefit my bank account like a bazillion fold. I believe God will use me even if I'm poor and living in a cardboard box. But part of my purpose is to do my business. And so that is a stewardship issue. However, I do actually believe, for me personally, and I'd love to hear from you guys, maybe not even like today, but you can message me about this, that I actually believe that God will hold on to any finances that I'm not ready to do with in a way that will please him, because I am asking him to help me operate in his will. And so I trust that if my heart position isn't in the right place, so he's not going to give me $1 million if I'm still like super excited about shoes. Until he sees my heart in alignment with where that $1 million is supposed to go, then he will withhold that until I am there. He may never give that to me, even if my heart is in line with where his will is leading me. But I don't believe that he will give me more than, and it's not a Bible verse, y'all. Like, the Lord will never give you more than you can handle. That is actually not in scripture. It's a nice thought. It's not in scripture. That's debunking Bible stuff. Anyway, but for me, I really do feel that, yes, you know what, maybe I would have $1 million. And like Chelsea was talking about, and Janice said about ministries, that I would just like be like, oh, our church had a software glitch. The lights wouldn't go on. I could do that. Here's all this money, right? Well, maybe even though that's all good and the church needed like the money for that, but maybe that wasn't the plan. Maybe the plan was that 30 people were supposed to give $100 or $1,000. And it was supposed to be discipling those people in giving, and not just me forcing the hand and being like, oh, well, I have this money and there's a problem, so obviously I'm supposed to be the solution to it, right? And I can get ahead of myself in that way. And so I'm thankful that God is teaching me these things, and that I need to be slow, even with my financial generosity, because just because I have it doesn't mean that I'm supposed to be the one that fulfills all of the needs. I am more so supposed to be the prayer and the support and the focusing on his will. So that's just a path that God is speaking to me on.
And I think just in that light, giving money is only one piece of our gifting and our giving. And just like you said, Janelle, it might not be for one person to give the whole amount. It might be for the community to give some. Just like you could easily go and make the meals for that church supper every week, but maybe that's not actually for you to do. Maybe your to do is to call the shut-in person and talk to them once a week. I think it's that understanding what our giftings are and where we are to gift. And there's a lot of resources, including money, that we have to gift.
That's why it's like the body of Christ and not like the single cell. We're not just supposed to be like on our own. We're supposed to all be together. And through that, just the edification of, yeah. So, and just as an encouragement, make sure that you're talking about things like this with people that are around you, because we are like the things that God is speaking to us and doing in our lives, and things where we're allowed to minister and those kinds of things, that is also supposed to build up the body of believers. It's not just supposed to be for us. I don't believe that God ever does anything singly for one particular person, right? Like I'll use Sharon as an example. When Sharon was very open with her journey with her tumor, and we had a prayer group on Facebook, and it was so great. And to see how God brought her family through this, it blessed everyone, not just Sharon. It was a huge blessing to so many people, and we watched God walk things out, and that's how it's supposed to be. Over on page 63, I just want to highlight this. I did highlight it, but I want to verbally highlight it. It says, "It just seems like I should be much further along," a client mentioned as she beat herself up for her perceived lack of progress. "It just feels like everyone else who's been doing what I'm doing has things figured out, and I just keep stumbling." I'm sure nobody on this screen has ever thought about this in regards to their business, except me, 1,000 times, right? And I think that this is so key for us. Like it's in text, people. Like you put your eyeballs on that and you can look at it and say, okay, she goes, who is everyone else? like who says, right? We can do so many awful things in our brain that are so not serving us at all. Progress is a process, she says. When you spend too much time comparing yourself to others, you take your eyes off your vision and sow unnecessary seeds of doubt and insecurity. When you are tempted to compare yourself with others or condemn yourself for what you have or haven't done, consider these 4 simple questions to help you be more gentle with yourself and begin embracing the process of progress. Number 1, are your expectations realistic? We talked about that a little bit. 2, how far have you come? 3, where are you in the process? 4, what are you doing right? One of the reasons I love doing Valerie Burton stuff is that her focus is so very much on self-coaching. Like this is not just like an edict to be handed down and for us to memorize and all of those things. it is giving us good questions to ask ourselves when we hit these things, right? It's all about thinking differently. It says so on the cover. Successful women think differently. We need to ask ourselves these questions, and we need to take those thoughts captive. Is they're really not serving us? Okay.
I actually loved what she talked about on page 65 when she said, you have a happiness set point. And I found that really fascinating because it talks about 50% of happiness is genetic. It's your temperament. And this is often where we have that challenge with what's genetic and what's from around us. But if she says, if 50% of your happiness is your temperament and 40% is what you do daily, what's the other 10%? But the part that really struck me is 40% is what you do daily. And who's in control of what you do daily? Yeah. We each are to a great extent. And that's where her happiness action plan, page 67, she starts. So what kind of intentional activities should you be doing? And she said, it's often the simple acts that are most effective. So I would love to hear from those of you here. What do you find is effective in your 40% of what's in your control in terms of increasing your happiness meter? And exercise is not one of the ones that fits into my list, even though I'm aware and will beat myself up because it doesn't. 30 minutes of sunshine, though, is a big boost for me.
Oh, could we please?
Mm-hmm.
Sherry, exercise is one of mine.
Yeah. I love that, Trisha. I love that for you.
I would love to have that for her too, but it's just not.
It's
Yeah.
like I literally get grumpy if I don't get my exercise. But the same thing is getting outside. I've realized that exercise and outside is even like one of those mega boosts for me.
It's a twofer. 2 for 1. Yeah, I agree. Exercise outside, listening to a good audiobook. Can we get a triple whammy?
Okay, I wasn't outside this morning, but I'll just say I figured out a brilliant way to start a Saturday morning. I was up, other than I would have been out the door earlier, but I had a puking kid. Oh, Janelle, FYI, I don't think Addison's going to be there to do lighting tomorrow. Yeah, we don't want him there. I went to the gym this morning and I was on the treadmill before book club. And I started to do like my extra fun things because at my gym, there's all of the extra infrared and hydro massage and all the things. And I texted my husband and I'm like, this is the best. Because I'm listening to this, getting all ready on the treadmill, doing my thing. It got cut short because he had to go to work and we still had a sick kid. But I was like, I'm going to do this. Like, and here's the very positive thought for me. I'm going to do this every Saturday morning. I'll get back to you next Saturday and see if I'm still in the mindset that it would be a good idea to be there when the gym opens at 7. Yes, Linda.
What makes me happy is going to be happening pretty soon. I get to plant my seeds and see the little seedlings come up. And I got my seeds, so I'm ready to go.
I was going to say, I bet that was a huge dopamine hit when you got your seeds in the mail.
Yeah.
That's not on my list either, Linda. I'm so glad that's on your list.
I was going to say for me, go ahead, whoever wants to unmute next, is doing something creative. So whether that is, like it has to be with my hands. Like I can't, digital stuff does not fill my cup. It has to be with my hands. So whether I am doing a project where like a DIY home project, which I don't get to do very often, or even just baking something in my kitchen, or like, it's so silly, guys. Those diamond dot pictures are so therapeutic. They're ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway, Janelle.
What makes me happy will be starting in about 5 minutes. And I have a busy day here at work in 5 hours, I have a bridesmaid, 2 bridal, and a couple compression appointments. And that's not to count in any walk-ins that happen. And so I love Saturdays here. It's a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
Some of the things that that make me happy is watching an old movie. Bonus point if it's with my sister, because we just really enjoy. We grew up on old movies. I love playing the piano. Specifically, I love just spontaneous, just turning my prayer into song or singing straight from the Bible verses and just coming up with something that brings me lots of joy, as well as cleaning while listening to something, whether it's an audiobook or a podcast or scripture or whatever. That gives me a nice little boost. Or I just love being able to do lots of things all at the same time and actually it being effective.
Right.
Like compiling, listening to something and folding the laundry and not feeling like I'm just listening and just sitting in a chair and wasting my time. Even though I'm getting in good information, when I'm doing something else, I feel like, wow, I am super mom today. So it's a great feeling. So
Sharon?
Sure. So first of all, Ginny says cuddles make her happy, right? But me too.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think relationships and definitely going for a walk outside in the morning, I miss it so much if I don't do it. And for me, while I go for a walk, I don't listen to an audiobook and stuff. I usually WhatsApp with I've got like a really good friend in Switzerland the one that I just saw. But that's our time that we always get caught up with the time change. So I always kind of start my day like chatting to her, and I have a friend in Australia as well too, that we are just always chatting, and I kind of have my little visit with my friends, even though they're not here. But that makes me happy. And just relationship stuff daily and pouring into that daily makes me happy. And then as well too, I really do get happy like cooking like nice meals for my family. My family gets to eat really well, right? Because it makes me happy, right? It's other people's nightmare, but it makes me so happy. Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
I think that just gaining awareness of those things that make you happy, give you rest, help you recharge, and create fulfillment in your life. Like if we're not aware of what makes us happy, it's going to be really, really difficult to proceed, right? And kind of like what I was sharing about last weekend, if you feel out of alignment, you feel like you're driving a car and grinding against the rails, but you don't know how to correct because you're not sure where to find the steering wheel, right? Like that's basically what this is. This is like finding the steering wheel. And she says, make it your goal to incorporate the types of everyday activities into your life that will boost your level of happiness and fulfillment. Don't make it an afterthought, make it a priority. I think sometimes we can get stuck in the mundane, monotonous cycle of what every day can be like. And if we're not intentional, infusing those things that bring us joy, and in the middle of doing them, being aware that you're happy doing them. This is so great. It almost like it amplifies the joy when you are present in that, and you allow yourself to be like, I am so happy right now.
I really think that there's incredible value in investing time into reflecting on the question and where we're at and how we're choosing to move forward with our decision making in alignment with our joy.
I'm taking pictures of the coaching questions that she's leaving, just because even if you're listening on Audible, I think that they'll be really helpful for everyone to actually look at. And I'll put those in the chat.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Everybody will head off to their day with at least one little happiness strategy for the day.
This makes me happy. Being with you guys on Saturday mornings really does kick my Saturday off like on the right foot. And I feel so good. So thank you. Thanks for being part of my happy bubble. Really appreciate you guys. All right. We will see you on Tuesday night and then again next Saturday. Thanks for being here, guys. Bye.